And without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our CEO and co-host for today, Adam Phillips.
Hey,
Adam, thanks for
Jason.
joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to answer questions with you. So this is cool.
Yeah, well, maybe before we jump into the first question, I've seen a couple of people just jump into the room here. Maybe we could just start the Q&A talking a little bit about AI. I literally, right before I started the webinar, I saw I had an email from someone. They were asking what the investment was, and the second question was, how is AI going to impact the medical billing industry? And it's an important question, definitely not one that we're scared of. So, Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about AI as it relates to the industry?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. For people that are sticking their head in the sand and not reading about AI, trying to learn what it's all about, how the tools work, there is a possibility that those people, may get left behind when it comes to their job that they have now, or maybe a business that they start, or really it's in every industry that you could possibly imagine. There's different AI tools. And so what we have done is we have great relationships with several different technology partners that have developed some of the platforms that our business owners can use as tools, in their business. And what's really cool is we've partnered with some of the top industry rated platforms in healthcare. And, we can kind of go over who those are and all that later. But what they've all done is they've all stayed on top of what is, being requested by doctors. Doctors and medical providers and health people in healthcare are wanting tools to make their jobs easier. And so what our partners have done is they have implemented these different AI tools that human beings can use to make their jobs better and more efficient and faster and all that good stuff. The good news is the healthcare industry specifically is so nuanced when it comes to medical billing, coding, charting. There's a lot of nuance there, a lot of different medical codes, diagnoses, different things like that. So there's a lot of things going on that makes it extremely complicated for, one of Elon Musk's AI robots to do the whole work, without a human being. I mean, it's just not. I don't think those are even real. I think that was a fake video. But but that's the good news is they're still going to require human beings to do this work, but the AI tools, the people that are learning the AI tools, they are going to have a distinct advantage in the market because they are going to be able to get work done more efficiently. But ultimately, the final sign off on especially when it comes to billing and coding, you're going to have a human being that says, okay, yes, that diagnosis is correct, that coding is correct. That you have to have somebody signing off on that. So that's kind of what that article is about that I wrote. If anybody wants to see that, feel free. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah. If you look at what AI is really good at, AI is good at parsing static information. Um, at this point, AI is not great at information that is fluid and changes over time. If you go and use Chat GTP or GPT or some of these other tools, oftentimes you're getting answers that are dated, that are not up to the current, factual information, especially in industries or, topics that change often. And in healthcare, when you're treating patients, that's just not optional. You can't have the the AI answers to your questions and the tasks that AI is performing working on yesterday's information. When a code is updated or a compliance element is updated in the industry, there's no room for error. You can't use outdated information. In fact, that's one of the things we help these doctors correct. Having outdated systems and information causes rejected claims. And so at this point, AI is just really not solving that problem. Maybe sometime in the future, but we don't see anything on the horizon where AI is really going to, kind of knock it out of the park there. The one thing, as Adam mentioned, that we are seeing AI with really strong tools and features is has to do with helping the doctors with their charting. So automating the patient encounters and the note taking and the charting that happens in the exam room with the patient. Oftentimes, that can be uh, much faster with AI tools. In fact, we have an AI tool in our main platform called Ambient Assist, and it is super cool. If you haven't seen a demo of our system, make sure to shoot an email to your rep, and they'd be happy to do a demo and can show you some of these features. But one more thing I want to add to the AI conversation. The reason that having a really good medical billing solution is so important for these doctors is primarily because insurance companies are really good at rejecting claims. If you've ever experienced
Mhm.
that as a patient or, with an insurance claim, even if you have like a flood or fire in your home or you have something that happened with your car and you go through that process of sending in a claim, these insurance companies don't like paying these claims and they don't want to pay them. So what our owners are doing is they're using really sophisticated technology and they're going through training with us, learning how to navigate the challenges of these insurance companies rejecting these claims. And just to throw a couple things out there, number one, our system nationwide, month over month, operates at less than a 2% rejection rate. So we're dealing with way less than the industry average on rejections. The last thing I'm going to mention here, and we don't want to kind of beat this one topic to death, but insurance companies have automation that processes these claims and audits these claims. So when a medical biller submits the claim goes to the insurance company, and the insurance company has automated software that will audit that claim and decide if that claim gets paid out or if that claim gets rejected. And these insurance companies have that automation calibrated to randomly reject a certain percentage of claims. And you can go online and you can look at these charts where they've done breakdowns of what percentage of rejections these different insurance companies have. Everybody's probably familiar with the headlines of, of course, nobody condones violence, but the United Healthcare CEO was, shot down in New York City. Well, United Healthcare has by far the highest random rejection rate of any insurance company. Their rejection rate was over 40%. I think since then they have backed that number down, but that's about 10% above the nationwide average of most of the other insurance companies. So when you're thinking about providing these kinds of services to doctors, it's important to understand it's not a simple thing. You've got to know how to navigate the systems with each of these different insurance companies. And plain and simple, our systems and our owners do a much better job of that than the industry average. And that's how our owners get business. So maybe now we can jump into some more general Q&A. I can see we have one question here ready to jump into. For those of you who have not put a question into the Q&A box, we would love to hear from you. Feel free, any question that you have, click on the Q&A button and start typing it in. We're going to start with this first question and go from there.
Yeah, I'm going to read this question from Gory here. It's essentially a long way to ask the question, what's included for the $30,000 investment that we charge? Basically, Gory's been on several webinars, says he understands that our business owners, it says don't own the license of the products like iClaim. License fees for all the products are subscription based or separate, which is passed on to the providers. That is correct. So essentially, for 30K, 15 hours training, sales tips and guidance to get clients and submit claims. Is this what I'm getting for my money? Essentially, is what he's saying. Gory, we have spent a lot of time and a lot of money developing the partner relationships that we have that would probably not give you the attention or the discounted rates that we have been able to negotiate. We have spent thousands and thousands of dollars developing these very high quality professional looking marketing materials, all kinds of books, flyers. We've spent a lot of money developing the different website templates. You get to pick one of the website templates that we have. So if you start calculating all those costs, if you were to try to do that on your own, it would be about the same amount of money, if not more, to get all that stuff developed. But really, aside from all that, what I usually tell people is the primary reason why someone partners with ABS is because of our expertise in getting doctors to the finish line. So we can get a doctor to agree to sign an agreement with you and start paying you money in a matter of, 2 or 3 months after training. So we're very rapidly accelerating the amount of time, or reducing the amount of time, I should say, that it takes to actually get a client. So if you feel that you're good at marketing, if you feel that you're good at, finding doctors, finding leads, and getting them all the way to the finish line where they're signing an agreement with you, which we've also spent a lot of money putting together all the agreements and the practice analysis and all the different tools. If you feel like you're comfortable doing that on your own, you don't need us. So that's basically why people invest 30K with us, is because we can get you a paying client in a couple of months after training on average, not guaranteed, but on average. And then once you sign that one doctor, literally you can make your money back, your 30K back in about a year with just one client. So that's a pretty good investment in my opinion. I mean, it's there's not a lot of franchises and opportunities that can say, you'll have an ROI, return on your investment, in about a year or less with one client. It's just not out there. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of things related to running a business like this that are, more tangential to the business package that we have, that is difficult to put in a bullet list on a website. So if you just kind of scan through what's included in our business package, we try to make the list as simple as possible. If we listed out every single tiny little, spot of what's included, it would be totally overwhelming to understand what we're offering. I would say one of the largest values in investing with American Business Systems is you're partnering with us to launch and grow your business, and you get 3 decades of experience and connections in the industry. You can go find medical billing software online. It's a piece of cake. There's, tons of systems you can use. You can, go, do an online medical billing course. Fine. Best of luck to you. But what happens when you start marketing and you do have a potential client that's interested in doing business with you? How do you do a proposal for them? What do you charge them? What contract do you use? How do you structure that contract? How do you know that that contract is the right thing for that particular type of client?
mhm.
Um, how do you price that account out? What billing rate do you charge? And that's just the front doorstep. That doesn't have anything to do with once that client signs with you, then you go into onboarding. How do you onboard a new client? If you're unfamiliar with the industry, these are going to be pretty challenging things for you to figure out on the fly. Can it be done? Absolutely. This isn't rocket science. You can figure out how to do these things, but we've already done all that.
Yeah.
In addition, you also get access to all of our partners. We have over a dozen partners in the industry, and you get access to all of them, both technology partners and service partners. So let's say your business is expanding quickly, you're doing a great job with your marketing, and you can't keep up with all the claims filing. How do you hire a good medical biller? How do you start to build a billing team? Well, guess what? We've got a partnership with a medical biller staffing company. I mean, every possible thing that you could encounter in the growth of your business, we have a solution in place for. So you can look at the bullet list in our agreement, or the bullet list on our website and say, oh, this is just training and support. Well, yeah, we try to keep things simple on the website. But as your business grows, every single thing you're going to encounter, we have a solution for. And we also have a phenomenal support team that's going to be by your side, partnering closely with you to make sure you're successful. It's worth far, far more than 30K. And if you tried to put all that together, you're going to spend a good solid year just putting all the things in place. You could have a handful of clients by the time you do that using our model, and you'll save money anyway. It is a good question though, and if you want a more detailed answer, if you want a software demo, circle back with your ABS rep, and they'd be happy to provide that for you.
Yeah, it's like having a built-in team right out of the gate because you really do have some of us, doing demos for you, helping you with
Yeah.
proposals, like Jason said. So it's just, you're not out there by yourself just trying to figure it all out. We actually get calls all the time from people that say, I went through a medical billing course. I went through a coding course. And now I'm sitting at home having no clue how to run my own business and get clients. I have no clue. So I want to work with ABS. So,
Yeah, that actually happens all the time. But unfortunately, a lot of times those kind of people have already spent 20 or 30 or $40,000 trying to put everything in place, and they don't have clients and they don't know how to do it. They don't know what software to use, and they come to us, but they're already out of money, So I think there's a pretty strong value for the 30K investment.
yeah.
Couple questions here, Adam. Do you want to take one of these or throw it to me? How about I'm working with Raquel, so why don't I take Raquel's question here? Raquel is asking, what's the reason for insurance companies to decline claims? Uh, Great question. How does ABS reduce the decline rate to less than 2%? Both great questions. Insurance companies are in business for profitability to their shareholders. They, by and large, could not care less about claims getting paid out or the health of the patients that have insurance policies. It is about protecting their bottom line and profitability. Um, as altruistic as some of these, insurance companies try to pretend to be, um, I think most people that go through really difficult health problems will tell you that insurance companies are an absolute nightmare to deal with. So the reason that they decline these claims is straight and simple profitability. There is always going to be in every industry a certain portion of, fraudulent claims. That's not really what we're talking about. Fraudulent claims get sniffed out very easily by these insurance companies. We're talking about randomly, automatically rejecting claims, and all of these insurance companies do it. So they do it to maintain their profitability. And then as far as how we help navigate that and get better results, that's not an easy question to answer. Our rejection rate nationwide is less than 2%. That compares to like a 20 to 30% rejection rate average industry-wide. There's a couple of things that are key components, but it's not as simple as just these couple of components. Number one, we have an amazing system. It has a trademarked audit tool called Denial Defender, and Denial Defender tells you when you run that audit tool if the claim is going to be reimbursed or if the claim is going to be rejected. Essentially, it simulates what happens when the insurance company receives the insurance claim, because these audit servers have automated processes that'll scan through that claim. So it simulates that and tells you if that claim is going to be accepted and paid out or rejected. So that's part of it. If it's not going to be paid out, if it's going to be rejected and Denial Defender tells you, obviously you're not going to submit that claim. You're wasting your time. So you get an error code, you go correct it, find out what the error is, work with our support team, get it corrected, file it, and then it's going to get paid out. So that's one tool. We also work with the largest and best clearinghouse in the US. It's a clearinghouse called Waystar. Waystar is partnered with our primary partner, which is a company called NextGen. We're partnered with NextGen Office. And that combination of the NGO platform and Waystar, it's just the highest quality setup that you can have to get these kinds of results with the claims filing. So some of it has to do with just having superior technology through our partners. And then there's kind of a third level, and there's all kinds of different things that we can do to help the doctor's operational processes. But one of the most important things is helping make sure that the information going into that claim is correct. One of the main reasons claims can get rejected is the patient's name is misspelled, the date of birth is wrong, the social security number, there's a typo or something like that in the identifying information of the patient. We have a feature called automatic chart creation that downloads all that information from the insurance company. And so it makes sure that, the information for the patient that's included in that claim is accurate and matching the insurance company's record. That's just kind of scratching the surface of what we do, but those are the main categories of, helping reduce that rejection rate.
Great answers there. Yeah, so we have a question from Karina. Are there any other ongoing expenses or fees? So Karina, I mentioned a moment ago, for our business package, the software, the marketing materials, the lifetime training, the lifetime support, it's all included for a one-time investment that does have to be paid up front. And right now, that investment is $30,000. That does have to be paid in full before you start the training. Now, we have a research guide that we talk about on every single webinar that we do. So if you've been on one of these, you've seen that information, but we can send you a link to our medical billing research guide. It's kind of like a disclosure document, if you will. And so it talks about all the different services that we have, how that service works, what kind of money you can make roughly based on how many clients you have using that service. And also there's a section that talks about some potential fees that you might incur, just basic, setup of your entity, your business entity, paying for your website hosting and email, very minor costs. You may have some costs for some of the marketing methods like networking, for example. Some of the networking groups charge, $200 or $300 a year to join a networking group. So if you download that research guide, that will all be in there. But with regard to, the software systems that we have 3 partners for different practice management billing platforms, and they have different pricing. But essentially, you can either have the doctors contract directly with those partners, and so the doctors are just paying the fees directly. You could be the license holder of the system and then build those costs into your invoice to your client, so they're the ones that are still, the doctors are still covering that by the percentage that you're charging the doctor. And then lastly, we have licensees that have clients that they're just using the doctor's current system. So you don't ever have to force them to switch or use something that they're not ready to. If that's really what the doctor is asking for, if they don't want to switch, that's fine. You can do that too. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. And like you said in the beginning of your answer, we do have all the potential costs that you might incur in a business like this. That is listed in our research guide. It's a 65-page PDF. If you have not seen the research guide, send an email to your rep. They'd be happy to provide that. In fact, I think most of the reps here at ABS have a link to the research guide in the signature line of their email. So you can just go find any email from your rep, and I think most of us have that research guide linked up. If you can't find it, just respond to whoever sent you an email from ABS, and we'll get the research guide to you. Looks like Raquel has another question here. Raquel's asking, is the fee that ABS owners charge to doctors a fixed fee by ABS, or do you have the option to set the billing rate that you charge to your physician clients? Or are these negotiated on a case-by-case basis? That's a great question, Rachel. So we do not have any kind of fixed pricing. We will make suggestions. We will advise you. Our support team is absolutely awesome at helping you dial in the proposal. We want you to get the client just as much as you do, because that's actually how we make money. So we want you to have the highest pricing that you can justify with that particular client scenario. You should not be giving away your medical billing services to these doctors. When doctors use the services of our owners, most of the time those doctors increase their revenue 20 to 30%. So like for $1 example, if you have a doctor that's doing $50,000 a month in revenue and you take over, that doctor should get around a 20% increase on average in revenue. So a 20% increase of $50,000 revenue per month, that doctor's revenue after they start working with you is going to go up to an average of $60,000 a month instead of $50,000. So that's a 20% increase, $10,000 a month. So these doctors are actually earning a profit margin when you take over. They're paying you for the billing service, but they're putting money in their pocket every month. So we can get away with, or our owners can get away with charging a little more for their services. But that is your final decision. I'd strongly suggest listening to our support team when you move forward and you're getting clients and going through especially for your first few clients, listen to our support team, take their advice, dial in that proposal to be, close to what they're advising you, and you'll have a much higher likelihood of getting clients. Great question, though. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, good one. We've got a follow-up from Gory here. Are the business owners also competing with the sales team of your partners or product company, e.g. sales team of iClaim? They might also be reaching out to the same providers. So I have asked that question of our software partners, and essentially what I've been told is that they focus very heavily on inbound leads. Their sales team does. So in other words, there's websites for doctors to go to that's like, are you looking for new software? Put your name and email in here, and somebody will get in touch with you. And then 12 different companies reach out to that doctor. That's essentially what these sales teams do, is inbound. And so they have told me that they actually consider our business owners their main boots on the ground, if you will. So our business owners is actually their main sales force that's out there in the streets, if you will, knocking on doors and talking with doctors and selling the product that way. So no, there hasn't been an issue of competition whatsoever. I cannot tell you that I've ever heard of I've never even heard of an ABS business owner running into another ABS business owner. It's just there are no territories, and the fact that there's no territories, the fact that we teach you how to market mostly through networking and referrals, you're just not going to run into anybody. It just doesn't happen. So hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, I want to add one more bullet point to this one. Gary, really good question here. So there is no software in this industry that has more than a 5% market share. So this is not the kind of industry like Microsoft Office just has an enormous corner on the market for, Office software. This is not like that. In the medical billing, practice management, and electronic health record system market, there is no company that has more than a 5% market share in the private practice space. So, number one, it's unlikely you would run into, any scenario where the doctor's, talking with or already has a system of one of our partners. It is possible, though, that you would run into a scenario where the doctor, it's unlikely, but possible, where the doctor's already using the next gen system. That's actually an ideal scenario because since they already have the platform up and running, what we have seen is usually these doctors are not using the system properly. They didn't get proper training. That's a system that they landed on when they set up their practice, and they don't even know some of the features and benefits that are available to them. And so when we go in and do a proposal, we're going to ask for the key metrics of that practice. And almost always we can provide major, major benefits to how they're utilizing the system. And since they're already set up on the software, those are actually some of the more easy clients to pick up. So it's never been an issue with us. But if you do run into somebody that's using the platform, it's a more ideal scenario for sure.
All right. KC is asking, does ABS provide updates or integration support with Medicare, Medi-Cal, or commercial payers in California? All of the payers in California and elsewhere are built into the platform already. So essentially, that information has already been plugged in. It's just a matter of you gathering the doctor's NPI number, their electronic filing number, and getting them all set up in the system to process through our platform, and that's it. And good to go on that. Yeah, and that's the beauty of, we always partner with cloud-based platforms, and anytime there's changes or updates to the system or payers information changes, insurance, Medi-Cal changes something, Medicare changes something, sometimes the government will say, well, now you got to start filing claims this way instead of this way, and we've changed the rules. And every time you log into our platform, there's like a dashboard that will tell you, okay, there's some changes coming through Medicare. Here's what they are. Here's the timeline that Medicare has set for the changes to take place, and we've already updated the system to stay ahead of those changes. So it's just really neat because every time you log into the system, you have the latest, greatest version of the platform always. Yeah.
Yep. Great question. Thank you, Casey. Raquel, bringing in lots of great questions here. Raquel's got another one regarding the medical billers that we might hire as we grow. Would they be employees or contractors? Now, of course, just like your other question, you have final say so because this is your business, your company, you make the decisions. But most of our owners choose to use contract labor for the medical billing. In fact, we are partnered with a medical biller staffing company, and they have awesome medical billers at a very low cost. We can get a full-time 40-hour-a-week biller for less than $2,000 a month. So you can plug one of those billers into your operations very quickly. You just let support know you need additional help with your claims filing and you're looking for a biller, and they'll get you set up straight away. So that would be our advice when you're in your initial stages of growing your business. But as you really kind of, when you get your company up and running, and if you have, a few dozen clients and you've got a whole bunch of contract billers that you're working with, some of our owners have taken that in-house and hired, domestic billers and gotten an office space. It's not very common because your operational costs increase pretty dramatically when you do that, but it can make the management of that team a little easier when the team grows to a large enough size. Nothing you have to worry about in your first year or two of business, but if you grow a really large operation, you can talk with our support team about hiring domestic billers, and they can help you with that as well.
Good. KC asked a follow-up. What are the most effective channels ABS licensees use to get their first clients? Do you want to talk about that one?
Effective channels ABS license use to get to, yeah. We've actually done full webinars just on our marketing strategies. So if you'd like to see, KC, those webinars, shoot an email over to your ABS rep and they can give you the links to the webinars we've done in the past. We do a deep dive on marketing strategies. So there's a few strategies that tend to work faster than some of the other strategies and give you more connections to potential clients. And those are referral based and networking based strategies. And so think about it this way. Your target market is private practice physicians, right? So you want to engage with private practice doctors' offices. Ideally, we have about 30 types of specialty medicine that tend to be the best kinds of clients to get. So when you're targeting your marketing, your goal is you want to get in front of 30 different types of specialty medicine. Our top 3 types of specialty medicine are cardiology, podiatry, and pain management. So if you can get into those networks with your marketing, easier to get clients, and those clients are way better to get. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, there's 2 main ways that we teach our owners to do this. One is through professional business networking groups. So the idea here is you're meeting other professionals. Those professionals are introducing you to their physician clients that want to see how it would look for you to help them increase their revenue. With this strategy, what they're doing is helping you connect with usually the office manager under the premise that you're going to do a needs analysis. We call this a practice analysis. You're going to gather information with the office manager. You'll have a short consultation with them that's totally free. You'll gather information so that you can get to know the medical practice a little better, get to know their key metrics, and that'll allow you to develop a proposal that specifically addresses the particular needs of that office. And also, we'll be able to give uh, projection of what we think the revenue increase is going to be. Now, you're going to be working directly with our support team to develop this. This goes back to Gauri's question earlier about, well, what all is included? How's this worth, 30,000, to summarize the question. So when you start doing these proposals and needs analysis, how would you even know how to interpret first of all, how would you know what questions to ask if you're unfamiliar with the industry? So we have a questionnaire you follow. When you gather that information, how do you convert that to a proposal? Well, we have a tool that does that. And then how do you know you did it properly? Well, you have one of our awesome support team members who's going to schedule a session with you, go over the proposal and the findings of your needs analysis, and help you get that dialed in. I honestly don't know how you do it without having all that in place. You could just bang your head against the wall and make it happen, but it's going to be some trial and error because every doctor's office is different. So you go through that step-by-step process, give the proposal, then we step in, we offer a software demo, and over half the doctors that go through the sales process to that point move forward. So we have an extremely high closing rate if you can follow those steps. So business networking, you're looking to get introduced to the office manager to do that needs analysis. And that's one of the beautiful things about our process. You're not going in to do a presentation or to pitch the doctor or try to sell them something or, do kind of a whiz bang sales presentation. You're just gathering information. And then that proposal is what's going to trigger the doctor and office manager to want to learn more. Then we get them on the software demo. So again, to summarize, you use the connections at the networking groups, get introduced to the office managers, do the needs analysis proposal, and then we help you kind of wrap the deal up. The other way to do this that is almost like the same method, but it's just like that method on steroids, that is using medical sales reps. So we can help you find local medical sales reps in your local market. And it's the same exact process. Those sales reps are introducing you to the office managers under the premise that you're the one that can usually help, increase revenue 20 to 30%. They're going to help you coordinate those consultations to do the needs analysis. And the sales rep is just going to be faster because you don't have to go through meeting after meeting, getting to know your, business networking friends. A sales rep is just going to start making introductions right away. The only downside of using sales reps is if that turns into a client after they've made an introduction, they're going to expect a commission. Usually a couple $1,000s. It kind of depends on the size of the client. But the sales rep program usually is the fastest way to get in front of a bunch of doctors. So those are two of our top methods. But again, ask your rep. We can send over the webinar with the more detailed versions of that. And you can do a deep dive.
Yeah, there's about a dozen different methods, and some of the top ones, Jason just talked about. And you'll gravitate towards some and maybe not others, but it's a multi-pronged approach, that we teach you how to take. And the other thing that I think Jason might have mentioned is a real key piece to this is proper follow-up with people that you have talked to. So you have to make sure that you've got, drip marketing set up where they're getting automated, emails and different things for people, doctors and healthcare providers that you've talked with. And that's a part of the process as well. But we've got this down to a fine art at this point. We did get a question from Joe. You and I have been talking about ROI and helping figure out what to charge doctors. Why don't you tell people a little bit about like what are our business owners charging doctors and how much money can they make on individual clients, and is it based on specialty and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I was already rambling, so I needed to pull back at some point. But yeah, so the financials, when you start getting clients, is important to know the financial side of the business. So we're going to be super high level here. When you get a client, that client should generate between $30,000 to $60,000 a year in income for your business. The difference in those numbers, or what that range is about, has to do with what type of doctor it is and what level of revenue they have on average each month. So a $30,000 a year client is going to be like a general practitioner or a family medicine doctor, non-specialty medicine. So we're not talking about cardiologists and things like that. Just your regular family doc, it's going to be around 30K a year in income for you. Your specialty medicine doctors, cardiology, podiatry, pain management, physical therapy, the list goes on and on. We have 30 types that we specialize in. Those kinds of doctors are going to produce more like $50,000 to $60,000 a year in income. Now, where does that income come from? When the doctor signs the contract with you to take over the billing, that contract is going to stipulate something called a billing rate. The billing rate is the percentage that you're charging the doctor for the billing service. And it's a percentage of the total claims that get paid out each month. So at the end of each month, you're going to run a report in the system that shows all the claims. It's going to give you the total volume, and you're going to invoice the doctor for whatever percentage they agreed of that volume. Our owners usually charge between 4 to 8%. In most scenarios, it's going to be in the 5 to 6% range, sometimes 7%. That just gives you an idea. Again, you choose the percentage, you'll work with our support team and they'll help you, but it's in that range usually. So a very, very quick example of how this would look is, let's say you get a doctor that's doing $50,000. We'll use the $50,000 a month scenario again. So the doctor's doing $50,000 a month of revenue. When you take over, they get a 20% increase in revenue. So just like before, you're increasing their revenue from $50,000 a month to an average of $60,000. That's a $10,000, 20% increase. Pretty simple math. However, you're going to be charging them, and let's just say you're charging them around 6%. So that'd be around 6% of $60,000. That's going to be in the range of $3,000 a month. So the doctor's paying you around $3,000 a month for that extra $10,000 a month of revenue. And we're using really kind of general numbers here. But what that would mean is, out of that $10,000 of extra revenue each month, the doctor's paying you around $3,000, but they're keeping profitability, increased profitability of around $6,000 or $7,000 a month. So we're not out there begging for business. We are putting money in these doctors' pockets. That is how your business will grow. So you get to choose what percentage. You have whatever flexibility you want on, your proposals and everything. But I tell you, listen to our support team. They do a ton of proposals. They know what gets the job done. And really, especially for your first few proposals you do, let them guide you through that. I think that hit all the high points. If I missed
Yeah, you're not competing on pennies. You're competing against other billing companies that don't have a clue what they're doing. You're competing against doctors that are trying to manage their billing in-house, and they've got tons of cost involved in hardware, software, staff, and all that to try to manage in-house. And the private practices are realizing more and more, you know what, we need to have a professional that knows what they're doing, taking care of the billing and stuff. And so they're happy to pay you that 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the case may be, when they see the numbers, when you take them through the process. Because when you give them the results of that practice analysis, it's like, look, based on the information that you provided to me in our initial meeting, I've identified some areas where we can absolutely, save you some money here in these different areas, and get you more revenue. That's what it's all about.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Okay. Do you want to take, it looks like we probably have time for, it looks like, this one last question. Do you want to take this last one from KC? Do you want me to jump in on this one?
Yeah, Casey was doing another follow-up question here. What percentage of new licensees still operate their business after 2 years? It's a little bit of a tough one to answer, but from what I've seen, we see about a 10 to 12% dropout rate in the first year of people that, there's people that put the business on the shelf for whatever reason, something else happens in their life, which, the cool part is they have lifetime support. So we actually have people that put the business on the shelf for a year or whatever, and they come back at some point and they're like, hey, I'm ready to do this thing now. Like I had something going on in my life and now I'm ready to go back to it. And we help them, jumpstart their business, whenever that time frame is. For the people that stick it out and make it past year one, going into year two, I would say, what do you think, Jason? At least 80% or more of our owners
Yeah.
are still,
Yeah, it's
still going.
definitely above 80%. It's kind of a double-edged sword. We have a very, very flexible business model that's designed to give our owners the ultimate, control over their businesses. So a conventional franchise has monthly reporting requirements, a monthly royalty payment you're going to make, an advertising fund, a technology fee, and the franchisors in the conventional franchising framework, you are in a very rigid structure and you cannot do anything outside of that structure, or they can nullify your agreement and take back that unit or area that you invested in. So we're the opposite of that. We don't require financial reporting. If you invest in this business and you go through training and you decide to, kick your feet up on the couch and not do anything for 6 months, we're not going to be knocking on your door, begging you to go do this. You're running your own business. You have the responsibility to grow it, and we're here to help, but we're not here to crack the whip on you. So we do, like Adam said, oftentimes have people that start the business and life happens and they just don't get around to putting the energy into the business right away. But then something changes, they lose their job or get sick of their job, and now they're ready to come in and go full force, and they pick up steam and run. When people ask about success rate, most of the time, I think people are asking, what is the failure rate, right? Like what percentage of people just bomb, in a business like this. And so, franchisors don't like to talk about this, but there is no business model on earth that has 100% success rate. And the reason is businesses are made up of people and run by people, and people can sometimes not perform, including people who invest in franchises. Just because you've got the money to invest does not mean necessarily that you have the responsibility and work ethic to grow a business. If you think about companies that you've worked for, departments you've worked in, teams that you've worked on, there's definitely going to be a few people in every team that just don't pull their weight. We've all been there and done that. So it's the same thing in franchising. Our best estimate is our dropout rate is somewhere in the range of 5%, which even the best run franchises operate in a 5%, kind of margin for having, units or territories not perform. That's just how it works in the industry. We are knocking on the door of the top of the hour, and it looks like there's a couple more questions popping in here, but I don't think we can get into those and still wrap up the webinar. So, especially Guri, I know you have a ton of questions here. We'll have your rep circle back and do a deep dive with you. And get the rest of your detailed questions answered. A couple of things that we want to go through here just to wrap things up. If you are getting towards the finish line with American Business Systems and you're close to making a decision to move forward, we want to make sure you've had ample opportunity to go through all of our resources and tools that we have for you to really learn about this business model. So the research guide, we've talked about this several times. If you haven't seen the 65-page PDF research guide, definitely email your rep so they can get that to you. We post all of these webinars on our YouTube channel. You can go check out the recorded webinars anytime. There's thousands and thousands of hours of recorded webinars. You can just do a deep, deep dive in our webinars. If you haven't taken the time or have not seen a reference list, we do provide a list of our owners that you can reach out to and have a talk with and ask questions to directly. If you haven't done it, it is one of the best ways to get insight into this business, actually talking with people who are running a business like this themselves. So again, ask your rep for those references. Live demo. So we do live software demos as a step in our due diligence process. And it's really important to see how the software and technology helps our owners and their clients get better results with this stuff. So if you haven't had a demo, get with your rep and they'll help you get that scheduled. And then we'd be happy to send out a purchase agreement if you're at a decision point, let you check that out. It's an e-agreement and super simple to understand. And then we'll get your funding set up and get you into training. And if you don't know who your rep is, if you don't know how you ended up on this webinar, if you're just really confused and have no idea where to turn, but you do have something else that you need from us, you can call our toll-free number, 866-565-8413. Leave a message. If no one picks up, we'd be happy to get you the information you're looking for, or send an email to info@absystems.com.